Hi there, my name is Joe Paternoster. I'm an assistant research psychologist here at Young Epilepsy. I've also volunteered with Young Epilepsy for a number of years and actually have epilepsy myself. So my research project looked at the transition from child to adult care of young people with epilepsy. It kind of consists of two main areas. One is a scoping review and one is focus groups. So the background to this project has a few different areas. So we know that a lot of research has been done looking at different transition schemes around the world, systematic reviews, that kind of thing. What we wanted to do is focus specifically on the situation in the United Kingdom, looking at our NHS, our charities, stuff like that, to really understand what our situation is like. We did this by looking at kind of research papers, conference abstracts, that sort of thing, but also considering as well the kind of resources that NHS providers provide, but charities provide as well, to best inform our young people with epilepsy and indeed the families of those young people and children with epilepsy as well. The reason it is kind of so important and just necessary is that if you're a child with epilepsy, you are going to go through that transition process from child epilepsy care to adult epilepsy care. That is going to happen to all of us. It happened to me. And so understanding that process, be it through focus groups, looking at all that research that there is just so important to improving that experience for all young people with epilepsy. So, aim one is to map the current provision of resources and the breadth of research that focuses on transition for young people with epilepsy in the UK. Aim two is to then host focus groups with children and young people with epilepsy and their caregivers to discuss kind of provision and recommendations for transition. And then a longer term aim three, is to then kind of talk to and survey professionals in the healthcare industries to get their perspective on transition, but that is a longer term goal. The impact of this is just that we want to make the transition experience for young people with epilepsy and their caregivers as good, as seamless, as supportive as possible. We know this group faces so many challenges that can be a very anxious time. So if we can develop better resources, if we can point research in a better direction and better understand what families and what the children themselves are feeling, then those are great impacts for these children. How do I conduct my research? Well, it is loads and loads of reading, because it has to be. It's a scoping review. You've got to read the papers, the conference abstracts, the charity websites, the NHS websites. The point of it is reading it all, documenting it all, and that is a big part of what I've done. And it's actually incredibly interesting. There's so many things you learn that you just don't expect, things that are out there that you've just never heard of, and that has been so educational for me. So there's stuff like that. There's stuff like developing your own tools, your own checklists, which you can use to assess your resources, which I've done in conjunction with some other people that I work with. There's then obviously the actual writing of any report that we make, which has been, again, a collaborative process, is working with some of my colleagues, developing graphs, tables, that kind of thing. And then there's the focus groups aspect. So that is, pulling all these people together, which involves a lot of promotional stuff, creating of design resources, stuff like that. And then the focus groups themselves, facilitating conversations with these people with epilepsy, with these families of people with epilepsy who have been through so much. So the conversations are really powerful. They can indeed at times be quite challenging to navigate, but that's how you get those really purposeful, meaningful and honest conversations, which are so vital to this project. So the focus groups and the scoping review are still very much underway. So any kind of results I can give you are very much provisional, but there are a few things I can speak to. So we have looked at lots of resources, charities, NHS providers, and thankfully some of them are really good, which is brilliant. But what we have found is that there aren't that many for NHS providers when you consider how many NHS providers there are. So that could definitely be something to look at developing. And then looking at the research papers, again, there is such quality research out there, which is brilliant. But there's also not loads of it. And what is quite interesting is that most of the research either focuses on the UK as a whole, so kind of broad surveys, stuff like that, questionnaires, or it's focused on England and Wales. We have under a lack of knowledge of the situation in Scotland and Northern Ireland, which is cause for concern. And as well, anecdotally, we know that from county to county, from trust to trust, even within England itself, the transition situation can very much vary. And so I think that needs to be looked at in some way. And that's what this is about, identifying areas where research can be developed in the future. When we look at focus groups, findings again very much provisional, but stuff around, children and parents feeling anxious, the evolving role of the parent, the kind of loss of provision of certain supports you get in childhood when you move into adulthood. I mean, there are so many findings, there really are, and I can't wait to write it all up and share it all. But like I say, some really amazing conversations have been had. Where can you find out more? Well, hopefully when research is done, we'll be able to share more with you guys. But indeed, contact the research team at Young Epilepsy.